Good afternoon. I'm Jason Thomas. I'm a project engineer here at National Center for Defense Manufacturing Machining, or NCDMM, and I'll be your host for today's NCDMM Lunch and Learn. So if you haven't already, grab a bite to eat and sit back, relax, and get ready for our show today. So just a little background on our NCDM Lunch and Learn. So NCDMM has established a team of over 200 alliance partners who provide significant manufacturing expertise and technology to help solve advanced manufacturing related issues. Our collaborative approach to developing and deploying best-in-class solutions is successful because we integrate the specialized and innovative skills, technologies, and practices of our alliance partner network. If your organization is interested in becoming an NCDM alliance partner, you can navigate to ncdm.org under Who We Are and click on Our Partners, fill out the form there, or you can go ahead and click on the link that will be shared in the chat here momentarily. All right, there's that chat. So if you're interested in your organization becoming an alliance partner, please click on that and fill the form out. We'd be happy to have you. So just another important note before we kick off the Alliance Partner Lunch and Learn. At the end of the presentation, there will be an opportunity for a brief question and answer session. If during the presentation you have a question, please submit it in the chat on your Microsoft Teams screen, and we'll ask it during the Q&A session. I will do my best to get all of your questions answered. So today's NCDMM Alliance Partner, you can go on to the next slide, please, Ellie. Thank you. Today's NCDM Alliance Partner Lunch and Learn is focused on unlocking efficiency and improving quality, the power of Canvas Envision, and digital interactive work instructions. Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Eliannah Linehan. Ellie is the Vice President of Solutions for Canvas GFX. Ellie, without further ado, I'll now turn it over to you and your team. Go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. So a little overview of what we'll talk about during today's Lunch and Learn. We'll give an overview of our platform Canvas Envision for creating, managing, and deploying interactive digital work instructions, talk about some trends in manufacturing that have driven folks to adopt digital interactive work instructions, also about the integration of digital work instructions into a larger workflow, and then some demonstration of creating, managing, and deploying digital interactive work instructions in our product Canvas Envision. And then we'll look into the roadmap that we have coming up at our company, Canvas GFX, around the product. So jumping right into the overview of Canvas Envision and the kind of value that's driven through the delivery of interactive digital work instructions. So we really are transitioning from creating these paper-based work instructions to creating these interactive instructional experiences. If you look at the graphic on the right. And because we're delivering these instructions digitally, we're able to create a feedback loop from the frontline worker to engineering to drive continuous improvement and greater awareness of what's happening in the field around the execution of these work instructions. And when we think about the activities that work instructions drive, it's assembly, disassembly, maintenance, and training. And by integrating these digital interactive work instructions into sources like PLM, we're able to give frontline workers better access to the data that sits in our single source of truth. So they're not necessarily getting out-of-date derivatives. They're locked into the latest version and the richest set of data coming from engineering. Through that process, we're able to capture data, not only the feedback that I mentioned, but also different inputs around the execution of those instructions. So when we think about drivers of adopting digital interactive work instructions, there's a piece on clarity of the format, but then there's also the opportunity to capture data through the digital execution. When we go digital, we have more control and more data that we can actually gather, whether that's capturing data against a serialized part or assembly to have in a quality database or against a digital twin, that all becomes possible when we deliver digitally. And through that, we can also track their experience and their performance, so we can understand early if there are issues around an instruction being unclear, or a bottleneck throughout our process. And all of this together drives greater productivity for both engineers creating this technical content and frontline workers executing the work, greater efficiency for both in being able to create and execute, and then ultimately greater quality in the products that are created through the execution of these instructions. So at a higher level, Canvas Envision is a SaaS product that drives these KPIs for productivity, efficiency, and quality. And we offer this application through a browser-based authoring experience. And the consumption or deployment of these instructions is through both a browser-based and offline app experience. So that can be through a PC or tablet. And then we are giving you this opportunity to create digital loops between different organizations. And then finally, we have a rich SDK that allows you to augment and customize these experiences. And some of our roadmap items we'll get to at the end, but really we're thinking about how can we drive greater efficiency through the adoption of modern technology. When we look at the capabilities of Canvas Envision, there are many. We sometimes call Canvas Envision a connected knowledge platform, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is take the rich information created by engineers and put it into the hands of frontline workers, and vice versa, take the rich experience of frontline workers who are working hands-on and feed that back to the engineers who are designing and updating and refining products. So on the content authoring side, what it takes to create these digital interactive work instructions, we handle a lot of different types of media. At the top of the list is 3D data. So we're handling over 30 formats of 3D CAD. So we're CAD agnostic. And from those 3D models, we can create interactive views as well as animations, all within one tool. And we can also expose the PMI in those models. So if you are adopting model-based definition, you can visualize that product manufacturing information inside the documents. And then alongside the 3D, we also support image, video, text, table, and we'll see that more clearly in the demonstration. And then on the management piece, we handle a centralized document storage in our portal. And we also integrate into PLM, PDM systems, MES systems, so the management and deployment of those documents can be integrated deeply within existing tech stacks and workflows. And then publishing, version, and history is all handled in our portal as well, and can be synchronized in something like a PLM or a PDM. And then on the consumption side, we are giving access to that interactive 3D and those animations and those videos to the frontline worker. And as I mentioned, it can be both online and offline, browser-based or app-based. So we are doing everything end-to-end, from creating, managing, and deploying, as well as integrating these digital interactive work instructions into a larger enterprise tech stack. So as we dive into this deeper, I just want to give some examples of both partner and customer deployments that are leveraging Canvas Envision for digital interactive work instructions. So from left to right, one of our partners is SAIC, which may be familiar to some folks on the call. But in any case, what we do with our partner SAIC is integrate into PLM, and we use the ability to create digital interactive work instructions through our rich SDK, and allow that to be more programmatic and automated to create something that's 80% done directly from PLM data, and even take the information in that document and and send it back to PLM so it can eventually be delivered in an XML format. So it's a very interesting integration there, where we're taking advantage of the rich SDK that Canvas Envision offers and allowing data to flow back and forth between Canvas Envision and PLM. And then in the middle here, we have an MES partner where we allow the creation and update of digital interactive work instructions directly from the MES platform. So we can offer this ability to create the interactive work instructions directly from MES and drive basically instant updates from the MES platform. So through the MES application, they're able to have these step-by-step model-based digital interactive work instructions, all within a system that captures much more rich data in a way that is really designed for manufacturers. And then finally on the right, we also work with Zebra Technologies, and this is really bringing durable industrial grade tablets and connected devices to the frontline worker, and being able to capture data through that actual industrial tablet device. So as I mentioned, we capture feedback and inputs through the execution of instructions. And when integrated into a tablet device, this just offers more readily capable solution to manufacturers to utilize that industrial device and its ability to capture data in the field with Canvas Envision as the platform that you create, manage, and deploy the instructions through. So talking about here, why are people adopting digital interactive work instructions in manufacturing? And it's not just because it's a modern and interesting, cool technology. It's because there are real business problems that need to be solved. So what we hear time and time again from everyone we talk to in every industry is that they have a huge workforce shortage and shortage of skills problem. So there's a statistic we have that 50% of folks over 55 have already retired from the workforce from skilled manufacturing. And there are already over 2 million, and we expect over 2 million unfilled jobs by 2033. And the people that will fill these jobs are the digital native generation. And the tribal knowledge that exists in the more experienced workforce isn't necessarily, we can't rely on that being transferred and available for the next generation, because the way that the next generation has learned and been taught is really through digital formats. So we're used to learning about things on the internet, on YouTube, through video format, through interactive format. There's obviously lots of gaming, and the next generation is really best equipped to learn through digital format that's well documented. So capturing that information now in a rich way to enable the next generation to learn these skills and execute well. And not only that, but the younger workforce isn't staying in the jobs for 30 years for their entire career. They're switching frequently, so they need to be able to be upskilled quickly with good documentation. And then in the middle, on the business drivers for digital interactive work instructions, the metric that's measurable here is really quality. So sometimes the adoption and focus on work instructions comes through trying to improve quality. So if things are not documented accurately or not documented at all, oftentimes the root cause is found to be the documentation. So to improve quality, we see manufacturers really looking towards improving their work instructions to drive better quality. And then finally, a study that we did at Canvas, we surveyed, I think, over 500 US manufacturers, and over 85% found that there were quality issues related to outdated, unclear, and hard to understand work instructions. So they're looking towards, again, digital interactive work instructions to be able to deliver clear information and update it easily. So I'm going to talk a little more about the platform specifically. So if we look at the Canvas Envision platform, the simple overview is there is a browser-based creator application with a modern UI. And then we have a browser-based Envision portal to manage documents, administrations, permissions for users, and sharing. And then we have a browser-based viewer application to view these interactive experiences. And then within each portion of the product, there is APIs related to them. So we have the opportunity to create scripts against creation. So that is a little bit of programmatic creation, automation. And then on the portal side, we have the opportunity to integrate into other applications like PLM, PDM, MES. And on the viewer side, we can embed the viewer into external applications and websites, such as an MES, such as an LMS, or a company website. So we can view that experience in an interactive, embedded way, and even customize the experience around that viewer. And then all of this is handled in the cloud, though we do support self-hosted cloud and on-prem deployments. We do have a SaaS solution available. So if we look at two pieces here, the creation and the viewing. In the left-hand side, you see a bit of a preview of our EV Creator application. So this is browser-based, and we can handle documentation, we can create animations, all kinds of 2D drawing, basically end-to-end, all the things you would need to create these rich visualizations. And we can templatize these documents. We can import things like PDFs, of course, CAD, MP4s, audio, and then we can collaborate with other authors and share these documents, and then also export them to flat formats as needed. And this creator application can even be embedded inside another master system. It's programmable, so we can create scripts to generate pieces of content automatically, and we can customize the UI of the creator application as needed. And then on the viewer side, this is also browser-based. We have an online and offline viewer. So offline comes up when people have, let's say they're doing maintenance in the field and there's very little connectivity in oil and gas, in shipbuilding, all kinds of different times we don't have access to the internet. So this offline application allows you to have the same interactive experience, even remotely, and via a tablet that's very portable, let's say. And here we can interact with the 3D models, play animations, videos, etc. And this viewer, again, is embeddable. It's programmable, so we can, I'll show you some examples of that. And we can capture different events in the document, and this is what allows us to capture data against a certain step, track progress, write data against a serialized part. So this is a really interesting opportunity when we go to a digital format. On the integration side, on that portal document management side, we can integrate into PLM. So what we can do here is we can pull 3D data, we can even pull text data, we can pull this from PLM. And then we can also even store the digital work instructions and control them through a PLM or a PDM. So this is the integration piece. And I think perhaps an ideal workflow for creating assembly instructions would be to pull and manage from PLM, and then to push the execution to an MES or an MES-like system, where the orchestration of manufacturing execution is handled. And these are both integrations that we support. On some of the benefits of doing this, we think authoring documents can be up to 5 times faster when you're able to just simply pull the existing 3D data and update views from PLM. So what we allow is to import models and manipulate them to create these custom step-by-step views and animations. And then we also allow you to update all of that content using our update feature. So let's say one of the models changes, there's a design change. Without taking all new screenshots like you might using a legacy approach, you're able to click update, and then every view and animation would update automatically. And through this associative link, we know that when a certain model is updated through an engineering change, our instruction is affected. So this allows me to be more proactive about updating all the content that's related to a certain design, and push that update much quicker to the frontline worker when the engineering change is executed. We can also push this again to MES, record data against the execution of the instruction, whether that's in an MES or a QMS, and route the feedback accordingly. So whether that goes to email, etc., that can be customized. So let's talk a little bit about an example of how all this information flows. So on the first row here, we'll see some examples of source data. So the icons here represent 3D CAD images, including raster, vector, MP4 video, audio, tabular data. So we take that source data. We can take it from a local location, so network drives, etc. And we can also use our EV Connect API to pull that information from a predetermined source. And that is great because we can perhaps get the most up-to-date and retain the link between the source. And then from here, that data, the CAD, the image, the tabular data, comes into our EV Creator application in the browser, where we're able to manipulate it freely. And then from there, our primary path would be to generate a document in our format, which is an EV doc. But alternative workflow would be to generate web video, PNGs and PDFs as needed, where that kind of flat document content is still needed. We do support that, so we can create imagery from the mixture of all this visual information. And then from here, we would publish it either to the Envision portal, save it locally, or publish it, let's say, to another location. And then from here, we can view it from our platform Envision, where we can use it as a permission-based library. We can also view it in an offline viewer, and then we can embed it in a lot of interesting places like an MES, a homegrown site that we use to distribute instructions, etc. And then the enablement here on the connection side is using the EV Connect API. The creator is augmented through the EV Create API to create scripted-based content generation. And the viewer is augmented using the EV Consume API to customize things like data capture and the viewer experience. And I'll just show this briefly. The the APIs that are supported by the Envision SDK. I think very interesting, the EV Consume is allowing you to embed interactive content anywhere you can embed HTML content. Control navigation, behavior, capture data, register for events. And then to the right, the EV Connect API, that's allowing you to connect data sources from PLM, PDM, MES, and allow you to maintain links between published content and source content. That's done through something we call manifest. So in other words, if I insert model ABC, I keep track of that model and that version in the document. And that really allows for traceability when you connect to a source application. And then here in the lower left, EV Create. This is exciting when we talk about efficiency. I think we're all trying to make our repetitive processes more efficient in this day and age. So this allows you to create content programmatically and even customize the ribbon to insert data in a customized way. So that's pretty powerful. And then finally, lower right is the EV Console API, which is really around visualizing data that's captured in our tool. So let's look at some sample integrations that leverage those aforementioned APIs. So in the upper left, we have an example of a master system controlled workflow. And really what this means is that we are handling both source data and document management inside an external system. We have an existing integration available with a PLM called Eris Innovator, and we do just this. We manage history, versioning, change control, permissions, even viewing, and launching the creator application from the master system. So as a user, I have permission to access all my, let's say, 3D content as I would as a user of that master system, which is important when we have, let's say, project-based or export control related permissions. And even the versioning and history and change control can be managed within that PLM. So you can have more sophisticated life cycles and quorums and all of that related to change control. And then to the right, we have an example of an Envision controlled workflow. And this is another integration we have available. Autodesk Vault is a PDM application. So in this case, we have a synchronized management of documents. So they're checked in and checked out from Autodesk Vault. You are also retrieving data from the vault using your user permissions, but this workflow is centralized on the Envision side. So you're opening up your tool to create digital interactive work instructions and simply have a source and record in the vault, but your kind of day-to-day application is Envision. And then in the lower left, we have an embedded viewing example, which is using that EV Consume API. So here we have an integration with Plex by Rockwell Automation, which is an MES application. And so here the document is embedded into the MES application. So you can view those step-by-step digital interactive work instructions. And then you can open the creator to update and push that document back into MES. So it's embedded viewing. And then scripted authoring using the EV Create API we mentioned on the previous slide. We do this with the partner I mentioned earlier, SAIC, where we're taking PLM content, which could be anything from part numbers, requirements, pre-formatted XML, etc. And that is coming from the SAIC source PLM, and being pushed into Envision to create that 80% done document. So again, really interesting example of automation. So I hope you've got some perspective and idea of the range of functionality and integrations and workflows we support. From here, I'm going to jump into a demo. I'm going to do a 3-part demo here. So first, we'll talk about the creation of interactive. I have model-based here because we'll be looking at the 3D CAD specifically, interactive digital work instructions. And then we'll talk about how they're managed, both in the portal and integrated with an external system. And then we'll talk about the deployment options for interactive digital work instructions. So this should lay more context on everything I've said so far. And as I go through this demo, please feel free to enter any questions that come up for you in the chat, and we'll handle those at the end. All right. So starting here, I'm going to press play, and I'll be talking over this demonstration. So here we are. This is the Envision portal where we have various centers that users have permission to. We have different user types, so creators and consumers, which have read, write versus read only permission. As a creator, I'm able to open the EVDoc format, and it will launch the EV Creator right into the browser. The first thing you may notice as this loads is the ribbon is very familiar. It has a modern UI, so it's very discoverable for the end user. Everything here is context aware. So if I select a text object, the text toolbar will show up in the ribbon. If I select 3D, likewise 3D will be selected. This is an example of a multi-page document. Behind it, we have a master page, and that's how we handle templating. It sits behind the page. We do allow you to import PDFs. So this can be helpful in a transition. If you want to leverage existing templates and augment existing data, you have that opportunity to import a PDF and break apart every piece, including editing text. Oftentimes, we'll take this landscape format when we think about digital consumption. So here on a 3D model, I've clicked Edit, and you can see what opportunity I have to manipulate the 3D model. Again, we're CAD agnostic, so we support over 30 formats of 3D CAD. I can't change the 3D model, but I can manipulate it. So I can move things like I can change the position. I can change the color. We support some appearances like steel and glass, some different rendering options, flat technical, wireframe. I can also add 3D labels where I can pull metadata from the model. So any metadata that exists in the model, let's say the name of the instance of that component, I can override it with text. I can always restore the position to its neutral position. So I can't really break it or get too far from the nominal design. When I'm done, I can save this. I've just exited here, but we can see some different examples. We can vectorize the 3D model into 2D and then edit that 2D. This can come up sometimes in one-off repairs, let's say. So we can create those vector paths from the 3D model. And then beyond that, we'll just see some examples here, some tabular data, images, text, tables, all mixed together in one pane of glass. Some examples of the 3D labels. We can override with text, letters, etc. We can also create these 3D animations. These are very popular. This is a popular request we have from customers who come to us. They're interested in animating their instructions to enable a new workforce. So using keyframes, we're able to create these animations in a simple way. So what I'm doing here is I'm just selecting a location for components at time A and time B, and all that motion we see is just automatically interpolated along with color and camera position. So it's very straightforward. And we're able to update these models and animations using this Update 3D Model button. So we don't lose all this work when there's a revision to the 3D model. You'll see some other kind of efficiency drivers for the creator, things like annotation lenses, offset lines. So here, I'm just going to show an example of a creator workflow when we integrate with PLM. Here, I'm just starting with a template, and I have a PLM tab, and here I'm able to search and pull 3D data from the PLM as I would as a user inside that PLM application. So I have the latest version available to me. I can simply insert it, and then I will also have the opportunity to update that 3D model if and when there is a newer version available. I could also, in theory, pull image data, tabular data, text data from the PLM system as well. And when I'm all done, on here we'll see the import menu. So you can see I optionally include BREP, optionally include PMI, some compression opportunities. When I'm all done with this document, I can save it back within the PLM if I'm integrated in that manner. And there we see the 3D model that came in. And that check link data function will look into the PLM and show us if there's a newer version available. Here there's not, but we'll see a new revision once that 3D model is updated. And so with that, that is the overview of the creator workflow, creating these digital interactive work instructions, focusing heavily on the 3D side. But again, if any questions came to your mind as you watched this part, I can certainly handle those in the Q&A section as far as what we support. All right, so the next section here is management of the documents. So if you recall, EVDoc, that's the format that we're creating in Envision for digital interactive work instructions. So here we'll take a look at how we manage these documents. So loosely in management, let's talk about collaborating. As we try to refine and publish a document, we may need to collaborate with other people. So here I'm able to leave comments for other users in the tool. This is me, I'm tagging here. We can leave any kind of comment, something we notice, something that needs to be included before we publish. And here we have a record of all the comments where we can add priority and resolve them once included. I can talk back and forth. I would receive a notification both by email and inside the application, and I can resolve that once I've included that information. So it's just a trackable, traceable way of doing that. I can also push a document to a review state, and this is what exists out of the box using our application. We can always extend some of these workflows, but this is basic and included for every level of our application. So here I have basic lifecycle states, draft, review, publish, and archive. So we'll go to the review state when we push that to another user to review, and then we have versions to the right. So when we publish, we'll trigger a major version, and we can trigger a minor version as needed. And we will have history against every saved version. The save is automatic, so we can always trace back to a previous version, restore it, or reference it. So that is handled out of the box with or without integration. So in addition, we'll see centers on the left. So these are permission-based. We can also get feedback from our consumers, and we track this separately. So we have commenting between creators and then feedback from consumers. If I log in here, I did it very quickly. So I'm logged in now as a consumer, and you'll notice I only have access to the Z5000 centers, just as an example of a maybe product-based permission where I'm only seeing certain centers. And I only have permission now as a consumer to view this document. I can't edit it, but I can leave feedback in the document. In this one, we have an example of something we support called layers or layer actions, where if I select this object, I will toggle on different language layer. So another example of how we handle content interactively. But if there's something here that was unclear to me, maybe this could really use a photo as well. I can ask to have a picture included in this instruction and add a priority if I want. And this will send feedback to the author of the document so they can consider including clear information in the next version of this maintenance instruction. So now I quickly toggled to the creator of this document, and I'm going to view the feedback in the latest version of the document. And we'll see that as we flip to the page that feedback is left on. That same comment for request for a photo. And here I can converse back and forth with that consumer. They would get an email notification. And I'll maybe say I'm going to include it in the next version. And when I've done so, I would resolve that feedback comment. So this is a way for us to drive continuous improvement. Just one way to do that. So I can change the priority and resolve it when appropriate. Yeah, so that, again, that's the basic overview of managing documents inside Envision and a little bit of an introduction into managing in PLM. Any questions that came up there, just add those to the chat. Finally, we'll talk about deploying interactive digital work instructions. Oops, sorry. I'm going to mute this because I'm going to talk. All right, great. I'm going to give you the live version. So here we have deploying these instructions. So as a consumer, I am going to be able to log in and see the latest published version of all the documents inside the centers I have access to. So at a basic level, I can use Envision as an up-to-date library for accessing work instructions that should be available to me. And we'll see all the centers there. There are other options as well. So when I log back in as a creator, what I can do is I can create links to this document, and I can deploy those in an external system. I suppose I could send them by email as well, but let's assume we have an internal website that we want to deploy these instructions to. This is a more basic example that we do run into. We're just in SharePoint here. I can simply include a URL to that document. I can decide if I want people to have to log in or they should just have access within my domain. And they'll be able to launch that interactive instruction inside our viewer directly in the browser using that same URL, either to the most recent version or to the or to a specific version. I have options to either generate a URL to latest published or a specific version. I can utilize an iframe to embed that same URL content. So the final example I want to show is using, or second to last example, is using the embedded viewer. So here we're using that EV Consume API to embed a viewer inside anywhere we can embed HTML. So any application could live outside the square, let's say. But inside the square, we have the Envision document, and we are going to control what happens here using some events. So when we select this object, we'll control the pagination. When we select this object, we'll create a customized feedback workflow where we snap an image of the current page and send it to an email address. Here, when we select the next page, we'll capture that event and require a checklist input. This is a PPE checklist, but it could just as easily be a numerical text input. It can really be anything that you can create using HTML and JavaScript. I have to confirm I watched a specific video. So again, I can add some friction, or I can really require specific information against execution, like serial number, weight, measurement, frequency, all kinds of different measurements that we might want to capture through the instruction. This is a final example I want to show, which is the offline viewer application. So here I'm utilizing an offline viewer. So even without internet access, I can use this offline viewer to consume these instructions interactively. So the 3D views, the animations, the videos, these are all available to me even offline. This can be via a tablet, or PC. So an example, and this is exciting for us to enable these maintenance workflows where people really don't necessarily have access to Wi-Fi. I think, oh, sorry, I think I have maybe one more. I was too impatient here. In any case, I think perhaps the last one I was going to show was just how that viewer can be embedded inside of PLM. So we'll just go to the next slide. And again, if you have any questions on deployment, feel free to throw that into the chat. So as we wrap up some of the content in this Lunch and Learn, I did want to give some preview into Canvas GFX and our roadmap for Canvas Envision in 2025. So at the top of our themes for 2025 is really, in layman's terms, getting faster to done. So having assistance around the creation of graphics, animations, language translation, and transforming massive amounts of PDF data into this interactive format. That's a top theme for us. We have plans to leverage deterministic programmatic approaches as well as AI. And then augmenting the consumer experience by giving more power out of the box, not just text input, but recorded verbal feedback, pictures out of the box without any customization. Providing access to offline viewing via tablet, ready out of the box tablet application, and displaying external live data within the consumer experience. So think things like IoT data or external system data. And then on the partner side, we have several partners that we work with that really allow us to provide more value to end users. So enabling more use cases. We've already recently established the componentization of our creator application. So enhancing, giving more opportunities for MES, PLM, and PLM integrations, and enhancing that embeddable creator. And then finally, looking really again on the consumer side, building and creator side to build workflows more like an experience. So utilizing AI to build an experience in a more likely drag and drop, low code, no code way. And then some preview into our roadmap on AI. There's really three main things that we're looking at late 2024, early 2025. And that is to allow, I guess from right to left, transforming massive amounts of PDF data into an Envision format, recognizing pieces of information like checklists, warnings, where 3D models can be replacing 2D views, and transforming those massive amounts of PDF data to Envision. And then translating content. So having that be not at all a manual process or minimally manual, being able to create multilingual content inside Envision. And then a chatbot interface to create multi-stage workflows as a creator. Especially on the animation side, we have one of the easiest to use 3D animator tools in our creator application, but pushing the envelope there and allowing people to create it more intelligently and more in a more automatic way. So yeah, and this is just an example of how we would translate PDF to Envision. So right now we can import PDF and modify it, but in the future we'd be able to have recognition of certain pieces of content and suggestions for inclusions of rich content that we would map via things like model names into a source database. So here, this is our vision of Envision integrated into large enterprise, across customers and suppliers. So really, at the OEM, having a opportunity to create interactive digital work instructions from PLM and then push those training and work instructions into LMS, MES, using them for assembly, for maintenance, and for training around those activities. And then delivering that maintenance content to customers. So instead of leveraging, let's say, printed PDF manuals, they have live access to rich maintenance content where they can send data back and forth as needed, and they can get the latest version readily. And then that customer can create their own training and maintenance instructions utilizing the same, perhaps the same content in the same format. And then suppliers can also provide training and maintenance instructions to an OEM. So, where you might be today handling PowerPoints and something like a step file, you could instead use this digital interactive format to push and share this kind of content back and forth across an ecosystem. So this is our vision for the future for a fully integrated digital loop across the ecosystem. And then here, finally, on the business side again, looking at some of the value that we get from adopting digital interactive work instructions. It's really on people, process, and technology. So we're enhancing the creator experience for authoring and updating instructions. On the frontline worker side, there's fewer errors, faster time to understanding, and on the quality side, fewer errors. On the process side, updates are frictionless. There's increased throughput from frontline workers because there aren't, slowdowns for repairs and misunderstandings so much. And on the quality side, less scrap and rework again. And on the technology side, Envision is offering a fully integrated solution. On the operations side, linking to CAD data allows us to have that digital thread concept built into work instructions. And on the quality side, having a technology solution to gathering feedback, gathering quality data through Canvas Envision. So altogether, improving quality, improving efficiency, reducing the cost of scrap and rework, all to drive revenue in the bottom line. Some of the customers that we have, some of the partners that we have, there are great companies that depend on Canvas Envision for digital interactive work instructions. Thurman, Marvin Engineering, Otis Elevators, and some of the partnerships that we have on the right. We have a quote by Anthony Murphy, SVP Factory Talk at Rockwell Automation, just on the productivity that Canvas Envision drives around the ability to insert 3D models and provide detailed work instructions. And then several other partners we have, including Aris, Plex, SSI, Microsoft, AWS, etc. So I hope this was interesting. I'll go into Q&A in a bit, but if you are interested in finding out more, you can visit our website, canvasgfx.com. From there, you can contact us, and you can also start a 30-day free trial. So you can request that on our site if you're interested in getting your hands on this application and exploring more. And with that, Jason, I'm going to hand it to you if you have anything else to say, but otherwise my email address is ellielinehan@canvasgfx.com.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Ellie. That was a great presentation. Thanks for going over all of Canvas's capabilities. Seems like a very, very great platform, very powerful. So yeah, if you have questions for Ellie and you haven't done so already, I don't see any in the chat. So if you want to go ahead and raise your hands, come off mute and ask your questions directly, you can do that. Or if you'd like to put your question in the chat, I can ask Ellie for you. So let's go ahead and get started.
Hey, Ellie, this is Jim. Nice presentation. I appreciate
Jim?
you walking us through the platform. As Jason mentioned, I think it's a very powerful and sophisticated tool. The question I have is, so let's say we're working with a new customer and we pitch the idea of digital work instructions and the benefit. How would you interface with a new customer? So, this is sophisticated, and I think there would probably be a learning curve for somebody to understand how to get the power out of the tool and how to use the tool fully. How do you guys play in that initial interface with the customer to try to get them up to speed?
Yeah, I might give you too much information, but typically when a new customer is interested, they might, find us on a website or through a partner. We'll run a demo, and then depending on the company, they'll either want a trial where they'll read documentation and play themselves, or we'll conduct something called a proof of concept or a proof of value, where we actually take an existing document and some existing data and create an example of a section or a work instruction or a maintenance instruction with them. And we'll have a few sessions to train them and go over, here's the sample, here's how it's created. So we do a hands-on approach because it's new and different, and we want to make sure people understand it and even put it in front of, let's say, the end user, so they can get feedback on, does this drive better understanding for you, and really test it out, even test out some integrations during that proof of concept or proof of value process.
And then do you guys do some type of like service contract long term with the users to really work with them, or once you feel they're trained?
We have a customer success program that has will provide them with training during onboarding, as well as training new groups of users as people are hired and people change jobs. So yeah, we do have a customer success program for our customers.
Last question I'll ask, and then I'll be quiet, is we work obviously a lot with the military, the DoD, the various service agencies. Do you guys have any experience working with various Department of Defense service agencies? Is there any concern about security concerns or anything like that?
We do. We have customers that are in the defense space as well as partners. And typically what will happen is they will want to, on the security side, they'll want to do self-hosted on-prem or self-hosted cloud deployment, so they have complete control over the IT infrastructure. And we have not had any problems with that, but that is typically the request as cloud adoption. So you see more on-prem in that industry, though cloud adoption is gaining traction.
Thank you, Ellie.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Thank you, Ellie. Thanks, Jim. We got one in the chat here, Ellie. So
Sure.
This is from Adam Chacott. Is the comment functionality user facing, or is it behind the scenes?
Yeah. So the comment, it goes fast, so it's hard to catch. So we have two comment functionalities. We have one that's inside the creation of the document. So really authors are collaborating there. And then we have an out-of-the-box option for consumers. With our platform, we have what I'll call a basic out-of-the-box opportunity to right-click and add feedback. And then when you want to have, let's say, an augmented experience and you embed the viewer, you can create more custom workflows. So I can click an object and then I can trigger, let's say, something to an email address or a specific system. So sometimes people have, a specific place they want feedback to go versus just an email notification. So it's a little bit of a roundabout answer, but you can see it as a user, so you can right click and add feedback. And then you can also create a more expansive augmented experience through the API.
Hi, Ellie. This is Adam. Just wanted to follow up on that a little bit more. Where I was going is, so if you had a published version of your instructions out there, and say Jason was the operator at the machine and he had a question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
would his question be, and again, this is a published instruction, so would his comment and the resolution be globally visible, or is that something that you would have the ability to maybe put behind the scenes just so that, you know?
So it's not, you can put it behind the scenes, and I would say in a more, the customized viewer and it would probably be better to use that option. So yeah, it's more behind the scenes. It's sent somewhere really specific. Yeah, you can make it behind the scenes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Of course.
All right. Thanks, Ellie. Thanks, Adam. All right. So we're at 1:00 p.m. We're at the end of the webinar. So thanks, everyone, for joining us. That will wrap up today's NCDMM Alliance Partner Lunch and Learn. I'd like to thank Ellie and Canvas once again for the great presentation. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. If you have further questions, you can reach out directly. You want to go back one slide there,
First.
Ellie?
Got it. Yep.
All right. So if anybody's interested, they can reach out here at the email address on the screen. Once again, if you or your organization will be interested in becoming an NCDM Alliance partner, please use the link that I'm dropping in the chat here and fill out the form. But thanks again for joining today's NCDMM Alliance Partner Lunch and Learn, and have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ellie.